All right, welcome back to the channel. So, ESPN is forced to do something that they should have done a long time ago, which was name Terence Crawford the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. But do not let that get you excited, because he ain't gonna be there for long. One, Errol Spence Jr. says we are switching spots, and plus, he's just a placeholder for that for another guy on the list right now. Mark my words. But let's talk about what Errol Spence had to say about Terence Crawford and his #1 pound-for-pound status, and then let me tell you what is going to actually happen to Terence Crawford and his #1 pound-for-pound status in this video. All right, welcome back, welcome back. So, Terence Crawford on ESPN's list is the #1 pound-for-pound. Hey, I guess Teddy Atlas was wrong. Okay, I guess he was wrong. I guess Vasyl Lomacheno wasn't better than both Terence Crawford and Andre Ward, like Teddy Atlas screamed in their face, and like ESPN has been voting for years. Guess that's not the case now that he lost, right? Well, they'll say, well, it's not the case anymore. No, it wasn't the case ever. And you guys should have known it. And it's been ridiculous that the guy has been there. He was 14-1 going into this fight and lost to a journeyman. Okay. He got dropped by Jorge Linares. He's a good fighter. Very good fighter. He is not Terence Crawford. Okay. Terence Crawford has over 30 fights. He was undisputed, something Vasyl Lomacheno did not accomplish and wouldn't have accomplished because he ducked Devin Haney. He's just not as good as Terence Crawford. That's what it is. And anybody and everybody with common sense has known that. It just doesn't work with your marketing ploys. However, now that Pop goes the weasel, well, what are we going to do? Well, first, we're going to go ahead and put Teofimo on the list because you know we like that. That's one more top rank. Like, there was only 4 people on top rank on ESPN's pound-for-pound list that were top-ranked fighters. Well, now let's get rid of Manny Pacquiao, get rid of a PBC fighter, and we'll put Teofimo Lopez on there. Now, we may not have the #1, but we've got 5. We've got half of them on this list. Man, kick rocks. However, do not get happy, Terence Crawford, because you will not be staying there long at all, and it will not take you a loss to be removed. You think maybe that I'm going to say it's Errol Spence Jr. that is going to put you off that list, but I do not believe that it is Errol Spence that will put you off that, not off the list, but out of that spot. A loss is going to put you off the list. Terence ain't going to be able to stay on the list with a loss, okay? He's not Gennady Golovkin. He's not Gennady Golovkin. He's not Lomachenko. He's not Estrada. He's not these other guys that have taken losses and stayed on the list, right? He's going to go the first time out, like Rigondeaux. #5, lost to #1, he's gone, right? #1 loses somebody that's not on the list at all, and he only goes to #7. You got to love the rankings, how these guys do this system. But Errol Spence says, now this is what I think, why I think Terence Crawford, in my opinion, is going to lose that position after the next fight. Because I don't care who's in that position if Errol Spence Jr. beats Danny Garcia. That's the #1 pound-for-pound guy in the world, because there's nobody with a record that compares to his over the last 2 years. Nobody. And in fact, he's coming off of what could have been a career or life-ending injuries, and then didn't even take a tune-up and is still going at one of the top guys in the division when these other guys won't fight young up-and-coming fighters like Devin Haney, won't fight Guillermo Rigondeaux, won't fight Gary Russell Jr. There's all won't fight Jamal Charlo, right? I can look at Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez won't fight Jamal Charlo. He's on that list, right? Vasyl Lomachenko lost. He's on that list. You know what I'm saying? All kind of people in there won't fight. Gennady Golovkin won't fight Jamal Charlo, but he stays on that list, right? Because of the people that you want on that list. Now, this is what's going to happen. When Errol beats Danny Garcia, he goes to #1. because Canelo's not fought that level of competition, and he popped dirty for performance-enhancing drugs. Terence Crawford, you've not fought that level of competition. Even if you beat Kell Brook. Well, if you beat Kell Brook convincingly, maybe you can stay right there. But Errol beats Danny Garcia, especially if it's dominating by knockout, people got to go. So when Errol said, hey, man, we about to switch spots, he's saying, hey, I'm going to come and fight you. I'm going to come beat you, and then we'll switch spots. But this is what I think is actually going to happen to Terence Crawford's pound-for-pound spot. Monster Inoue is making his U.S. debut coming up on October 31st. Monster Inoue, the Japanese fighter, let me repeat this, is making his U.S. debut on ESPN. A U.S. debut. He fought in 2017 in Carson, California on Superfly 2 card on HBO. But yet, he is making his U.S. debut on ESPN. So, this is ESPN, who has erased losses off of Vasyl Lomachenko's record. His record was 14-1. They changed it to 14-0-1, which moved the loss to a draw, and they did it multiple times. They're out here calling Teofimo Lopez a 4-belt champion when you know daggone well that the franchise belt that's not a belt. It's just some trash, and you know it's trash, but you're still going to push it. Now you push Tyson Fury's this big American star, but then we find out he's selling 1,500 tickets in Vegas. And now you're going to tell us that Teofimo Lopez, that Monster Inoue is making a U.S. debut, as if this is something special and new that we've never seen before. Monster Inoue has been on that pound-for-pound list for 3 years. And ain't none of these people, hardly none of y'all ever seen this dude fight. And he's not that good because he doesn't have any defense. But, okay, that's the guy that's going to be number one pound for pound, Terence. If you fight, mark my words, if Terence Crawford fights Kell Brook and loses 3 rounds, he is not going to be on that number one pound for pound list. The second, Monster Inoue is going to come to the U.S. and he's going to knock somebody out cold because they're going to give him he's going to give him a tomato can for his debut. He's going to show up with the tomato can that ain't got any ability whatsoever to prevent Monster Inoue from hitting him. And since Monster Inoue is strong, he's going to knock him out, and up goes the hype job again. And down goes Terence Crawford again. And why? Because Terence Crawford doesn't sell. Not that he couldn't sell. He doesn't sell. That's what Bob Arum says about him. Bob Arum, my understanding is, said, hey, maybe Terence Crawford needs to go to the PBC to get big fights. Terence Crawford, who is number one pound for pound by default. Let's be very, very straight here. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve it, because I've had him number one pound for pound for years. The only reason that he is number one pound for pound right now on that list is because he's an ESPN fighter, a top-ranked fighter, and the guy they really want lost, and the guy that they really want now has not done enough yet to give them an excuse to flip-flop him. But you better believe Monster Inoue is going over the top of Terence Crawford. But thank goodness for common sense and for boxing fans who know better, who come to YouTube, go on Instagram, go on Twitter, who commune with one another and talk to each other about the sport of boxing, and we can actually enjoy this fake garbage that these guys are trying because it's not fooling us. Right? Everything, I used this in another video, but I'm going to use this again. There's a saying by a guy that I respect very much. If you do not understand RWS, everything else, how it works, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you think you know will only confuse you. Let me repeat that. Until you understand RWS, and you can go look that up on the internet, everything else that you think you know will only confuse you. You have to know how it works and what it is. And this That is what Bob Arum has constructed at Top Rank, because NBF means no black fighters. And you look at what he's doing with the fighters he's promoting, what he did with Guillermo Rigondeaux, what he tried to do with Floyd Mayweather Jr., what he's probably done to countless other talented fighters that he and his cronies around him did not deemed unworthy to be stars in the sport of boxing. They play gods, and they say they pick who it is, and they give who they want to us. That is what Jim Lampley said about HBO years ago. We're so big. We're the center of boxing. We don't have to look for stars. Stars look for us, and we pick the ones that we think are best. That's a paraphrase of what Jim Lampley said on HBO, and I promise you, he learned a lot about boxing from Bob Arum, because that's exactly what Bob Arum goes about doing, to the detriment of fighters. Errol Spence, I hope that he gets the opportunity to be ranked that high, but quite honestly, I doubt that he will, because Floyd Mayweather Jr. had to do otherworldly things in order, and Manny Pacquiao had to lose in order for him to be number one pound for pound. If they won't put Floyd Mayweather Jr. or Andre Ward as number one pound for pound, what makes you think that these same people are going to want Terence Crawford there? Nothing. But that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.